My older sister posted a picture of me holding my 6-year-old daughter with the caption, "Some mistakes grow up and make more mistakes." My whole family liked it. Some laughed, some added comments, some just reacted with those laughing emojis people use when they want to humiliate you without actually saying the words out loud. But my husband didn't react at all. And somehow, that scared me more than the post itself. I had my daughter Lily when I was 20 years old. I wasn't married. Wasn't even close to being married. Her biological father was a guy I dated for maybe 5 months during community college before he disappeared the second I told him I was pregnant. By the time my stomach started showing, he had already blocked my number. I raised Lily alone for the first 3 years of her life. I worked double shifts at a diner outside Columbus, took night classes twice a week, and stretched every dollar until it practically tore in half. Some months I had to choose between gas and groceries. A few times I stood in line at the food pantry praying nobody I knew would see me there. My family never helped. Not once. My mother told me I should have given the baby up before I ruined my future. My father kept saying I was too immature to raise a child. And my sister Rebecca made sure everybody knew I had embarrassed the family. Nobody offered babysitting. Nobody helped with rent. Nobody showed up when Lily was born. When Lily turned 3, I met Caleb. He was a diesel mechanic, divorced, quiet, and the kind of man who listened more than he talked. He never cared that I was a single mother. Never cared that I came with baggage. Never cared what my family thought about me. We got married when Lily was 4. 6 months later, he legally adopted her. Lily started calling him Dad before the adoption papers were even finalized. And honestly, nobody could have blamed her. He packed her lunches, read bedtime stories, sat through cartoons he hated, held her hair back when she got sick, loved her in a way my own family never even tried to. My parents tolerated Caleb because he was stable and hardworking, but they never truly accepted Lily. You could see it in small things. My mother forgetting Lily's birthday every year. My father calling her the kid instead of using her name. Rebecca bringing treats for her own children during family gatherings while pretending she didn't notice Lily sitting there empty-handed. I noticed it. Caleb noticed it, and Lily noticed it too, even if she didn't fully understand why it hurt yet. That Thursday in October, I got off work exhausted. I'd been working overtime for almost 2 months at the accounting office where I worked, and I could feel the stress sitting in my shoulders and jaw like bricks. I picked Lily up from school around 5. She was standing near the fence holding a folded drawing against her chest with her backpack hanging halfway off one shoulder. One of her shoelaces was untied. I knelt down and fixed it for her. She stayed unusually quiet. "How was school?" I asked once we got in the car. "Okay." "You draw something?" She nodded. "A family picture. You gonna show me later?" Another nod. Then she stared out the window the rest of the drive home. She'd been quieter than normal all week. I kept thinking maybe she was tired, or maybe some kid at school had been mean. I didn't know yet that something much worse was waiting for me at home. We got back to our apartment a little after 5:30. Caleb was still at the shop. I poured Lily a glass of milk, put crackers on a plate for her, and opened Facebook while she sat at the kitchen table watching cartoons on the small TV in the living room. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just scrolling out of habit. Then I saw the notification. "Rebecca tagged you in a post." My stomach tightened before I even opened it. I clicked anyway. It was a photo from my uncle's birthday party 2 weekends earlier. I didn't even know she had taken it. Lily was sitting on my lap holding a piece of cake while I smiled at her. Honestly, it was a sweet picture. Normal, happy. Underneath it, Rebecca had written, "Some mistakes grow up and make more mistakes." I stared at the sentence 3 times because my brain refused to process it at first. Then I looked at the reactions. 53 likes. My mother, my father, my Aunt Denise, my cousin Ashley, Rebecca's teenage daughter, people I'd spent years trying to keep peace with, trying to forgive, trying to stay connected to for Lily's sake. The comments were worse. My aunt wrote, "She said what everybody thinks." Ashley commented, "Truth hurts," and my mother had reacted with 3 laughing emojis. 3. I felt heat crawl up my chest into my face so fast it made me dizzy. Lily was still eating crackers behind me, completely unaware. I looked at her tiny sneakers dangling off the chair, a little milk mustache above her lip, and suddenly I couldn't breathe right. "Mommy, can I watch another episode?" "Yeah, baby." My voice sounded strange even to me. She grabbed her plate and walked into the living room. I stayed in the kitchen staring at the phone screen after it dimmed black in my hand. Then I unlocked it again. The post already had more reactions, more laughing faces, more comments. I set the phone down on the counter and gripped the edge of the sink so hard my fingers hurt. I counted to 10. then 20, then 30. My own mother, my own father, not one person defended my daughter. I heard the front door open around 6:15. Caleb walked in wearing his work jeans stained with grease around the knees. He tossed his keys into the bowl near the entrance and immediately looked at me. He always knew when something was wrong. What happened? I didn't answer. I just handed him the phone. He wiped his hands on his jeans before taking it. Then he read the post silently. I watched his eyes move down the comments, down the reactions, reading every single name. His expression barely changed. That was the thing about Caleb. When something hurt him, he got quieter, not louder. The anger settled deep instead of exploding right away. He handed the phone back to me. Did Lily see it? No. Your mom reacted too? I nodded. And your dad? Yes. He stood there another second, then walked to the sink and washed his hands all the way up to his forearms, slowly, carefully, like he was trying not to break something. Afterward, he poured himself a glass of water and looked toward the living room where Lily was sitting cross-legged on the floor watching cartoons. I'm gonna shower, he said calmly. Dinner at 7? Okay. He disappeared into the bedroom. I stayed in the kitchen and started making dinner. Chicken, rice, frozen vegetables, simple food. I chopped chicken breast while the fluorescent kitchen light buzzed overhead. Lily laughed at something on TV. I kept cutting. The knife hit the cutting board over and over while my mind replayed those laughing emojis from my mother. When Caleb came back out around 6:40, his hair was still wet from the shower. He sat quietly at the table while I finished cooking. Neither of us mentioned the post again. Not yet. Dinner, I called softly. Lily ran in, smiling. I cut her chicken into small pieces, while Caleb asked her about the drawing she made at school. She jumped down from her chair and brought back a folded piece of paper from her backpack. Then she opened it proudly on the table. It was the three of us. Caleb in the middle, me beside him, Lily holding both our hands. Above the drawing, in uneven, colorful letters, she had written, "My family," and underneath it, smaller and shakier, "The people who love me." Caleb stared at the drawing for a long time. Then he asked quietly, "Can I keep this? I made it for you guys," Lily said proudly. He folded it carefully and slipped it into his pocket like it was something fragile. Then he finished dinner without another word. Later that night, after Lily fell asleep halfway through her bedtime story, I walked back into the living room and found Caleb sitting on the couch with his phone in one hand. Lily's drawing was laid flat on the coffee table. Next to it sat a framed picture from the courthouse the day he adopted her. The three of us smiling, Lily holding a sunflower bigger than her face. "What are you doing?" I asked quietly. "One thing." Caleb, he finally looked at me. "Your sister posted that at 3:27 this afternoon," he said calmly. "Your mother reacted 4 minutes later. Your dad after that. By 5 o'clock, over 50 people were laughing at our daughter." I swallowed hard. "You want me to do nothing?" I thought about Lily writing, "The people who love me," in shaky little letters. Thought about 6 years of trying to make my family love her. 6 years of begging for scraps of respect. 6 years of pretending things didn't hurt. Then I looked back at Caleb. "Do what you need to do." He nodded once. Then he picked up his phone. Caleb took a picture of Lily's drawing first. Then he took a picture of the framed courthouse photo. He placed them side by side in a single post. I stood behind the couch reading over his shoulder while he typed. His fingers moved slowly, carefully, like every word mattered. Finally, he posted, "This is my daughter. I have the court papers that prove it. Anybody mocking her is mocking me too. And I promise you, that won't end well." That was it. No names, no tagging Rebecca, no direct reply to the original post, just those 4 lines and the 2 pictures. Then he locked his phone and placed it face down on the coffee table. "You're done?" I asked. "Yep, you're not gonna argue with Rebecca?" I wasn't talking to Rebecca. He leaned back against the couch cushions. I was talking to everybody else. For a few minutes, nothing happened. The TV kept flickering silently in the background. The kitchen light buzzed the same way it always did. Then his phone started vibrating. Once, twice, again, and again. Neither of us touched it. The vibrations kept rattling against the wood table while we sat there in silence. After almost 10 minutes, I finally picked it up. 34 notifications. Most of them shocked me. My coworker Jenna commented, "Lily has amazing parents." Our upstairs neighbor wrote, "That little girl deserves better relatives." A distant cousin I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me privately, "I left the family group chat tonight. I'm done with these people." But buried underneath all of that was a missed call from my mother. and a 48-second voicemail. I stared at it without pressing play. Caleb noticed immediately. "Don't listen to it tonight. I wasn't planning to." He nodded once. Then, after a long silence, he said something that made my stomach tighten. "I'm calling the attorney tomorrow." I looked at him. "What attorney?" "The one who handled Lily's adoption." My forehead creased. "Why?" "To talk." "That sounds serious." "It is serious." He stood up, grabbed Lily's drawing and the courthouse photo, and carried both into our bedroom. I stayed alone in the living room with my mother's voicemail glowing on my screen. For the first time in my life, seeing the word mom on my phone didn't feel comforting. It made me angry. I turned the phone off without listening. Caleb came back a few minutes later holding 2 mugs of reheated coffee. He handed me one and sat beside me. Neither of us spoke much after that. The next morning, Caleb called the attorney at 8 sharp. I was pouring cereal for Lily when I heard his voice from the hallway. He spoke quietly, gave our names, mentioned the adoption date, said we needed an urgent appointment. Then he hung up and walked back into the kitchen. "We're seeing him at 2. I blinked at him. "You already got an appointment?" "Yeah." I looked down at Lily. She was humming to herself while drawing shapes in spilled cereal milk with her spoon, completely unaware her entire world had almost been humiliated publicly by people who shared her blood. "I'll leave work early," I said quietly. Caleb nodded. I drove Lily to school like normal. I kissed her forehead before she got out of the car. She paused halfway through opening the door. "Mommy?" "Yeah? Are you mad?" The question hit me harder than I expected. "No, baby." "You look sad." I forced a small smile. "I'm just tired." She accepted that answer immediately. Kids trust you even when you don't deserve it. I watched her run toward the school entrance with her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Then I sat in the parking lot another minute before driving away. At work, I avoided Facebook completely. My phone stayed face down beside my keyboard. Jenna stopped by my desk twice. The first time, she squeezed my shoulder silently. The second time, she left coffee beside my monitor without saying a word. I almost cried over that stupid coffee. At 1:30, Caleb picked me up outside the office. Neither of us played music during the drive downtown. The attorney's office sat inside a small brick building near the courthouse. His name was Richard Bennett. Late 60s, balding, heavy glasses, exactly the kind of man who looked like he'd spent 40 years handling painful family problems. He recognized us immediately. "Well," he said while shaking Caleb's hand, "I wish this visit were under better circumstances." We sat across from his desk. Caleb explained everything first. The post, the caption, the comments, the reactions from my parents. He showed screenshots from the night before. Mr. Bennett read every single one slowly. His expression hardened more with each page. Finally, he removed his glasses and folded his hands together. "Did your daughter see any of this?" "No," I answered quickly. "Good." Then he asked, "Has there been previous behavior like this?" Before I could answer, Caleb opened a folder he had brought from the truck. I frowned immediately. I had never seen that folder before. Inside were printed screenshots, photos, dates, notes, 3 years' worth of incidents. Pictures from family gatherings where Lily sat alone while the other children played together. Screenshots of passive-aggressive comments. Lists of things my mother and sister had said. My chest tightened. "You kept all this?" Caleb didn't look at me. "I started after your mom ignored Lily's birthday dinner. I barely remembered that night." He remembered everything. Mr. Bennett spent almost 15 minutes going through the folder. The room stayed completely quiet except for papers shifting across his desk. Finally, he looked up. "You have options." I swallowed. "What kind of options?" "First of all, legally speaking, Lily is fully your daughter and Mr. Walker's daughter." He gestured toward Caleb. "That adoption is permanent and protected." Caleb nodded. Mr. Bennett continued. "That means you control access to your child, contact, public references, photographs, communication." I frowned slightly. "My parents are still her grandparents." "Biologically, yes," he said calmly. "Legally, they do not have automatic rights to your child." The room went quiet. "What exactly are you suggesting?" I asked carefully. "I'm suggesting formal cease and desist letters." My heartbeat sped up. "To who?" "Your sister, for the post itself. Your parents, for participation and public harassment. Any other adults who joined in publicly." I stared at him. "You can really do that?" "Absolutely." He slid the screenshots into a neat stack. What your sister posted publicly about a 6-year-old child could easily qualify as defamation and harassment under state law. I looked at Caleb. He looked completely calm, almost too calm. Mr. Bennett continued, I'm not recommending a lawsuit right now. I'm recommending boundaries. Legal boundaries. What would the letters say? 3 things. He held up 3 fingers. 1. No posting photographs or references to your child online. 2. No direct contact with your child without parental permission. 3. Notice that continued harassment may result in civil action. I sat there trying to process everything. My mother receiving a legal letter. My father, too. Rebecca opening one. The entire thing felt unreal. Then Lily's drawing flashed through my head. The people who love me. I suddenly realized something that made me feel sick. For years, I'd been protecting my family from consequences, not protecting my daughter from them. Caleb rested his hand gently on my knee. You okay? I nodded slowly. Mr. Bennett looked directly at me. Mrs. Walker, this only works if you're both fully committed. Once the letters are sent, relationships may change permanently. I thought about my mother laughing publicly at my child, about my father silently approving it, about Rebecca humiliating Lily in front of dozens of people. Then I answered, I'm committed. Caleb squeezed my knee once. Mr. Bennett nodded and reached for a yellow legal pad. Then let's begin. He asked for names, addresses, dates. I recited my parents' address from memory without hesitating. That hurt more than I expected. When we finally left the office, the afternoon sun felt too bright, too hot. Caleb opened the truck door for me. You all right? Yeah. You sure? I looked down at my hands. I think so. He studied me another second. You regret it? I thought about Lily sitting alone at family parties, about my mother forgetting every birthday, about Rebecca's caption, about 50 strangers laughing at my daughter online. No. And for the first time in years, I actually meant it. The letters were mailed Thursday afternoon. Certified mail. Official envelopes with Mr. Bennett's law office stamped across the front in dark blue ink. He told us they'd probably arrive Monday or Tuesday. Prepare yourselves, he said while walking us to the door. I didn't ask what he meant by that. I already knew. Saturday was Lily's 7th birthday. I almost canceled the party after everything that happened, but Caleb refused. She deserves one good day, he told me. So we kept the plan simple. A few kids from school, 2 neighbors from our building, pizza, cake, cheap decorations from the dollar store, no family, not mine anyway. Caleb handled the cake himself. Chocolate with purple frosting because Lily had gone through a phase where she wanted everything purple. I blew up balloons Friday night while Lily slept. Yellow and lavender. By the time Saturday afternoon came, the courtyard behind our apartment building actually looked cheerful. Lily wore a new dress we bought from Target 2 weeks earlier. White with tiny sunflowers stitched near the collar. She spun in circles before the guests arrived because she liked how the skirt moved. Watching her laugh felt strange after the week we'd had. Like my body still didn't trust happiness yet. The kids arrived around 2. There was music from somebody's Bluetooth speaker. Neighbors brought snacks. Jenna showed up with her niece and hugged me before I could even say hello. Nobody mentioned Facebook. Nobody mentioned my family. And honestly, that made me love those people even more. Lily spent almost the entire afternoon running barefoot across the grass until her braid came loose and her cheeks turned pink from the sun. When we sang Happy Birthday, she closed her eyes extra tight before blowing out the candles. I wondered what she wished for. I didn't ask. My phone stayed silent all day. No call from my mother. No text from my father. Nothing from Rebecca. Not one member of my family acknowledged Lily's birthday. The strange part was realizing it didn't hurt the way it used to. For years, I'd spent every holiday hoping they would finally treat her differently. That Saturday, watching her laugh with people who genuinely cared about her, something inside me finally stopped waiting. Monday morning, Caleb left for the shop before 7. I dropped Lily off at school and headed to work. At 11:15, my phone rang. Mom. I let it ring. 7 minutes later, she called again. Then my father called. Then Rebecca. By noon, I had 8 missed calls and 3 voicemails. I ignored every single one. Around lunch, my father finally texted, "Your mother needs to talk to you. Please call her." I stared at the message for a full minute before locking my phone again. At 1 o'clock, Jenna dragged me out for lunch even after I insisted I wasn't hungry. We sat outside a small sandwich place near the office. She stirred her iced tea slowly while studying my face. How bad is it? The letters arrived. She winced. That fast? Yep. And? My whole family's losing their minds. She leaned back in her chair. You know what's crazy? She said quietly. None of them lost their minds when your little girl got humiliated online. That shut me up. Because she was right. At 3:30, I finally checked one of the voicemails while sitting alone in my car after work. It was Rebecca. Crying. Angry. Talking so fast she could barely breathe. I can't believe you actually sent lawyers after us over a joke, she snapped. A joke, Madison. That's all it was. I closed my eyes. Her voice got sharper. Mom's been crying all day. Dad's blood pressure's through the roof. Aunt Cheryl thinks you've completely lost it. Then came the part that made my stomach turn. All this over a kid who isn't even... The message cut off for half a second before continuing. You always do this. You always make everything dramatic. Call me back. I deleted the voicemail immediately. Then I sat in the parking lot gripping the steering wheel until my fingers hurt. Not because I was sad anymore. Because for 1 second, I almost believed her. That's what growing up in a family like mine does to you. It trains you to question your own pain. I picked Lily up from school a few minutes later. She climbed into the back seat smiling. Guess what? What? I got a gold star in reading. She held it up proudly. A shiny sticker attached to a worksheet. Wow, I said softly. That's amazing. She spent the entire drive home singing a song her class had learned that week. Something about butterflies finding their way home. I listened quietly while driving. When we got home, Caleb was already there. He looked at my face once and immediately knew something happened. Voicemail? I nodded. Rebecca, how bad? I set my purse down slowly. She said Lily isn't really family. His jaw tightened instantly. Not dramatically, just enough for me to notice. Okay, he said quietly. That was all. Just okay. But after 3 years with him, I knew what that tone meant. That night around 8, somebody knocked on our apartment door. I was washing dishes. Caleb walked to the entrance while drying his hands on a kitchen towel. A second later, I heard my mother's voice. Panicked. Trembling. I walked into the hallway and saw her standing there holding the attorney letter in both hands. The envelope was bent from how tightly she'd been gripping it. She wore the floral church blouse she always put on when she wanted to look soft and harmless. Her eyes were swollen red. Honey, she said the second she saw me. Caleb moved slightly, but he didn't fully let her inside. He stayed between her and the living room. Polite, solid, like a locked door with good manners. What do you want, Mom? We need to talk. I'm busy. Please, 5 minutes. I crossed my arms. Behind me, I could hear Lily's cartoon still playing softly from the couch. My mother lifted the letter shakily. This is insane. No, I said calmly. What Rebecca posted was insane. She didn't mean it like that. She posted my child online and called her a mistake. It was dark humor. I stared at her. You laughed at it. Her mouth tightened immediately. You know how Facebook is. No, Mom. I know how you are. She blinked hard. I wasn't laughing at Lily. Then who were you laughing at? She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. I heard movement behind me. Lily had stepped into the hallway. The second my mother saw her, her expression changed completely. Soft voice, sad eyes, hands opening dramatically. Sweetheart. No, I said immediately. Lily froze. I turned toward her gently. Baby, go finish your cartoon in the bedroom, okay? She looked confused, but she nodded and disappeared down the hallway. The second her bedroom door closed, my mother started crying. Real tears this time. You're really doing this to me? I looked at the woman who spent 6 years watching my daughter get treated like an inconvenience. Then I looked at the legal letter shaking in her hands. No, I said quietly. You did this to yourself. She stepped closer. Madison, we're family. I laughed once before I could stop myself, a short, ugly sound. Family? Her face crumpled. You're punishing me over one mistake. No, Mom, I said softly. I'm finally reacting to 6 years of them. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe she didn't. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to keep peace anymore. Behind me, Caleb still hadn't moved away from the doorway. My mother looked at him next. You're encouraging this. No, he answered calmly. I'm protecting my daughter. The word daughter hit her hard. I saw it happen physically, like she wanted to argue but couldn't. You can't shut family out forever, she whispered. I looked straight at her. Watch me. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then I said the thing I'd been holding inside for years. You publicly humiliated a 6-year-old little girl and expected me to stay quiet because you're my mother. That stops tonight. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older, too, but not old enough to erase what she'd done. "What happens now?" she asked weakly. "If you need something, you contact the attorney." Her breathing shook. "You'd really choose strangers over your own family?" I thought about Jenna bringing me coffee, about our neighbors celebrating Lily's birthday, about Caleb keeping records for 3 years because he loved my daughter more fiercely than her own blood relatives ever had. Then I answered honestly. "No," I said quietly. "I already chose my family." Caleb closed the door gently after that. We stood there silently while my mother cried on the other side for almost a minute. Then came the sound of footsteps, then the elevator, then silence. I went back into the kitchen and finished washing dishes with shaking hands. Caleb sat at the table watching me quietly. When I finally finished, he asked, "You okay?" And for the first time in years, the answer surprised me. "Yeah," I whispered. "I think I finally am." 10 days passed after my mother showed up at the apartment. No calls, no surprise visits, no dramatic Facebook posts, at least not ones I could see. I had already blocked Rebecca everywhere. My father stopped trying after the 4th unanswered voicemail. And honestly, the silence felt strange at first, then peaceful. Lily went back to normal quickly. Kids do that when they feel safe. She laughed more, talked more, started sleeping through the night again instead of waking up and climbing into our bed at 3 in the morning. One Thursday afternoon, she came home excited because her teacher picked her drawing to hang in the hallway outside the classroom. She spent 20 minutes explaining every little detail while Caleb listened like she was presenting artwork in a museum. I stood in the kitchen pretending to cook while secretly watching them, watching him. The way he looked at her still hit me sometimes, like he genuinely couldn't understand how anybody could fail to love her. The next week, everything exploded again. I walked out of work around 4:30 carrying my purse and leftovers from lunch when I noticed somebody standing beside my car, Rebecca. She wore a beige dress and heels like she was heading to church instead of waiting to ambush me in a parking garage. For a second, I honestly considered turning around and walking back inside, but she already saw me. "Madison," I stopped a few feet away. "What are you doing here? We need to talk." "No, we don't. Please." She sounded calmer than before, too calm, like she'd rehearsed this conversation. I crossed my arms. "You have 2 minutes." She exhaled slowly before speaking. "I know the post was wrong." I said nothing. I deleted it. Still nothing. I apologized in the family group chat. "You publicly humiliated my child publicly. I don't care what you typed in a private group message afterward." Her jaw tightened. "Do you really think legal threats were necessary?" "Yes." "Mom's barely sleeping." "That sounds like a personal problem." She stared at me like she couldn't believe I'd answered that way. Honestly, neither could I. Old me would have softened already. Old me would have apologized just to end the conversation. But something in me had changed after that night at the apartment door. Rebecca lowered her voice. "You've completely blown this out of proportion." "No," I said quietly. "You're just not used to consequences." A flash of anger crossed her face, then disappeared. She switched tactics immediately. Classic Rebecca. "You're isolating Lily." I almost laughed. "You ignored her for 6 years. That's not true. You used to bring treats for your kids and pretend not to notice her sitting there. That happened maybe once." "It happened enough." She looked away first. That alone told me I was right. People avoid eye contact when the truth corners them. "Mom misses her," she muttered. "Mom had 6 years to love her correctly." Rebecca stepped closer. "She's still your mother, and Lily is still my daughter." That shut her up for a second. Then she said the thing that changed the entire conversation. "Ethan lost his job." I blinked. "What?" "My husband," she snapped impatiently. "After the lawyer letters started circulating, his father found out about everything. Then people at work started asking questions. They started digging into other problems. Other problems. Interesting wording." I frowned. "What does that have to do with me?" "The letters started all of this." "No," I answered immediately. "Whatever your husband was hiding started all of this." Her eyes watered instantly. Real tears this time, not the controlled kind she used when she wanted sympathy. "We're drowning right now, Madison." I stayed silent. We might lose the house. Again, silence. Emma might have to leave college. Emma was her daughter. 17 years old. I remembered babysitting her when she was little. Rebecca wiped her face angrily. "Mom thinks if you withdraw the letters, everything might calm down." There it was. The real reason she came. Not guilt, not remorse, Damage control. I looked at her standing there in expensive heels beside my car, asking me to remove the only boundaries protecting my child because her own life was collapsing. And suddenly I understood something important. Rebecca never believed she did anything truly wrong. She only believed she shouldn't have suffered consequences for it. No, I said. Her face hardened instantly. Madison. No. Please, no. She stepped closer again. You're being cruel. I shook my head slowly. No. Cruel was humiliating a 6-year-old online. That was a joke. It stopped being a joke when my daughter became the punchline, her mouth pressed into a thin line. Then she said quietly, "You're gonna end up alone." For some reason, that made me smile. Not because it was funny. Because it was outdated. I have Caleb, I said calmly. I have Lily. I have friends who actually care about us. I have neighbors who treat my daughter better than her own relatives ever did. That's not family. Yes, I answered softly. It is. Something in her expression cracked right then. Not sadness. Not regret. Pride. The realization that she wasn't controlling this anymore. You've changed, she whispered. Yeah. And not for the better. I looked directly at her. I think maybe for the first time in my life, I changed for myself. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she grabbed her purse tighter against her chest. You're unbelievable. Maybe. You think you won. This isn't a competition. It sure feels like one. I unlocked my car. Rebecca's voice sharpened behind me. When Lily grows up and asks why she doesn't know her family, what are you going to tell her? I paused with my hand on the door handle. Then I turned back slowly. I'll tell her the truth. Her eyes narrowed, that people who truly loved her stayed. Rebecca looked like I slapped her. Good. I got into my car and shut the door before she could answer. My hands trembled slightly while I started the engine. Not from fear, from adrenaline. I sat there another minute watching her walk back to her SUV without looking back once. When I finally got home, Caleb and Lily were in the kitchen making cookies. Flour covered half the counter. Lily had somehow gotten chocolate batter on her forehead. The second Caleb looked at me, he knew. What happened? Rebecca was waiting for me outside work. His expression changed immediately. Not panic, calculation. What did she want? She wants the letters dropped. And? I said no. He nodded once. Good. Lily held up a crooked star-shaped cookie proudly. Look what I made. I forced myself to smile immediately. It's beautiful, baby. She grinned and went back to pressing cookie cutters into dough. Caleb waited until she got distracted before speaking again. Did Rebecca threaten you? No. Did she raise her voice? A little. He wiped his hand slowly on a towel. I'm calling Bennett tomorrow. I nodded. Probably smart. That night, after Lily went to sleep, I called Mr. Bennett myself and told him everything. The parking garage, Rebecca waiting beside my car, the pressure about the letters, the comments about Ethan losing his job. He listened quietly. Then he sighed. I'll send a second notice. My stomach tightened slightly. What kind? One specifically prohibiting unwanted contact in workplaces or public settings. Can you actually do that? Yes. I leaned back against the couch cushions. Part of me still felt guilty hearing legal language attached to my own family. Mr. Bennett must have heard it in my voice because he spoke gently next. Mrs. Walker, healthy people do not ambush mothers in parking lots to pressure them into removing boundaries protecting a child. I closed my eyes. Yeah, you're doing the right thing. After we hung up, Caleb sat beside me and quietly pulled my feet into his lap. Then he started unlacing my shoes one by one. No speech, no dramatic comfort, just Caleb being Caleb. Sometimes love looks like somebody silently helping carry the weight you're too tired to hold alone. The second letter reached Rebecca 3 days later. And that was when the rest of the family finally started turning on each other. I found out about the family meeting from my cousin Rachel. Technically, she wasn't even close to me anymore. We hadn't spoken regularly in years. But after Rebecca's Facebook post, she quietly left the family group chat and started checking in on me every couple of days. That Friday night, right before bed, she sent me a message. They're all at your mom's house right now. I stared at the screen. Then another message came. They're trying to figure out what to do about you. I almost laughed at that. About you. Like I was a problem somebody needed to solve. I called her immediately. Rachel answered in a whisper. I'm outside, she said quietly. I walked out 10 minutes ago. What happened? I heard her car door shut. Your mom invited everybody over. Your dad, Rebecca, Aunt Cheryl, Uncle Mike, even Grandma Evelyn. That surprised me. My grandmother almost never involved herself in family drama anymore. She was 82 years old, had arthritis so bad she needed a cane to stand, and spent most of her time at home watching old game shows with the volume too loud. She invited Grandma? Yeah, Rachel said. I think she thought Grandma would pressure you into backing down. I leaned against the kitchen counter while Caleb loaded the dishwasher behind me quietly. And? Rachel snorted softly. It didn't exactly go how your mom expected. I stayed silent. She started telling everybody how you've always been rebellious, said you got pregnant young for attention, said Caleb's being manipulated. My jaw tightened instantly. Then Rachel added, Grandma interrupted her. That made me blink. What? She literally smacked her cane against the floor and told your mother to stop lying. I turned slowly toward Caleb. He noticed my expression immediately. What? I mouthed. Grandma. He stopped moving completely. Rachel kept talking. She said your mother spent years treating Lily like she didn't belong, and now she's shocked there are consequences. I closed my eyes. For some reason, hearing somebody finally say it out loud made my chest ache. Not because it hurt, because it felt relieving. Like somebody finally saw what I'd been carrying for years. What did my dad say? Nothing, Rachel answered immediately. He barely spoke the entire time. That sounded exactly like him. Silence had always been his favorite hiding place. Rebecca cried a lot, Rachel continued. Aunt Cheryl wanted everybody to message Caleb directly, but honestly, nobody seemed eager to poke him right now. I almost smiled at that. Caleb had that effect on people. He rarely raised his voice, but somehow that made him more intimidating. Then Grandma got up and left, Rachel said. Before she walked out, she told your mom something else. What? She said, you failed your daughter first, and now you're failing your granddaughter too. The kitchen went completely quiet around me. Even Caleb stopped pretending to load dishes. Rachel lowered her voice again. She asked me for your number before she left. That surprised me even more. My grandmother asked for my number? Yeah. I swallowed hard. She said she wants to meet Lily. After we hung up, I stayed standing there staring at my phone. Caleb dried his hands slowly with a dish towel. You okay? I don't know. I honestly didn't. Part of me felt relieved. Another part felt suspicious. And another part felt weirdly emotional over the fact that somebody from my family had finally defended Lily publicly. Caleb walked over. You trust her? I don't know if trust is the word. But? I looked down at the phone again. She stood up for Lily when nobody else did. He nodded slowly. Then maybe that matters. I thought about it all weekend. About Grandma Evelyn. About the last time I saw her. It had been almost 3 years earlier at a funeral. I remembered walking into the reception hall holding Lily's hand while my mother subtly steered us away from the rest of the family, like we were embarrassing guests she couldn't fully hide. I remembered Grandma watching from across the room. I remembered her lifting her hand slightly toward me. And I remembered my mother rushing us out before we ever reached her. At the time, I told myself it wasn't important. Now I wondered how many things my mother had controlled that I never questioned. Monday afternoon, I finally called. Grandma answered on the second ring. Well, she said immediately, her voice rough with age, about damn time. I laughed before I could stop myself. Hi, Grandma. How's my great-grandbaby? The question hit me harder than expected. Not because of the words, because she asked. Nobody in my family ever asked about Lily like that. She's good. You bringing her to see me or not? I smiled despite myself. You really want to meet her? I'm 82, Madison. I don't waste energy pretending anymore. That sounded exactly like something Grandma Evelyn would say. We agreed on Saturday afternoon. I didn't tell anybody else. Not my parents, not Rebecca, nobody. Saturday came gray and cold. Lily sat in the back seat asking questions the entire drive. Is she nice? I think so. Is she old? I laughed softly. Yes, baby. Very old. Does she have candy? I honestly have no idea. That answer disappointed her deeply. Grandma lived in a small house outside Dayton with a tiny fenced backyard full of plants and wind chimes. She opened the front door herself before we even knocked. Tiny woman. White hair, blue cardigan. Cane in one hand. Sharp eyes that missed absolutely nothing. The second she saw Lily, her entire face changed. Not fake sweet, not performative, soft, real. Well, she said quietly. There you are. Lily hid halfway behind my leg immediately. Grandma slowly crouched down with obvious pain until she reached eye level with her. I'm your great-grandma Evelyn. Lily studied her carefully, then asked, Are you super old? Grandma burst out laughing so hard she started coughing afterward. That's rude, I whispered automatically. No, Grandma wheezed while laughing. It's accurate. Lily finally smiled. That was all it took. The house smelled like cinnamon and coffee. Grandma had cookies waiting on the table before we even arrived. Lily relaxed surprisingly fast. Within 20 minutes, she was sitting cross-legged on the rug, explaining her favorite cartoons, while Grandma listened like every word mattered. I sat quietly on the couch watching them. Watching Lily slowly trust somebody new always felt fragile somehow, like witnessing a stray animal decide not to run. Grandma asked about school. About swimming lessons, about Caleb, and Lily answered everything happily between bites of cookies. He makes pancakes on Saturdays, she informed Grandma seriously. Does he now? And he lets me crack the eggs even though Mom says I make a mess. Grandma glanced toward me. Smart man. After a while, Lily wandered into the backyard to look at a bird feeder hanging near the porch. Grandma poured fresh coffee once we were alone. Then she looked directly at me. I owe you an apology. My chest tightened instantly. For what? For not stopping your mother sooner. I looked down at my coffee. You didn't know everything. No, she said quietly, but I knew enough. The honesty in her voice almost hurt worse than excuses would have. She reached across the table slowly and touched my hand. You protected that little girl when nobody else did. I swallowed hard. So did Caleb. Grandma nodded. That man loves her. He does. Good. Simple answer. Simple truth. Then she said something else. Blood makes relatives. It doesn't make family. I almost laughed at the timing, because Caleb had said nearly the same thing weeks earlier. Outside, Lily yelled excitedly about a squirrel climbing the fence. Grandma smiled toward the window. Bring Caleb next time. You want to meet him too? I want to meet the man who taught my granddaughter she deserved better. That nearly broke me. Not because it was dramatic, because nobody had ever said anything like that to me before. When we finally left that evening, Lily hugged Grandma goodbye without hesitation. Then she climbed into the car smiling. I like her. Yeah? She asks questions. I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. What do you mean? The other grown-ups never ask me stuff. I gripped the steering wheel tighter for a second, then forced myself to relax before she noticed. When we got home, Caleb was grilling burgers on the apartment patio. Lily ran straight toward him the second we parked. She has bird feeders and cookies and she wants to meet you and she laughs really loud. Caleb looked at me over Lily's head. I nodded once, and somehow, without saying anything else, he understood exactly what kind of day we'd had. Grandma Evelyn became part of our routine after that. Not in a dramatic way. Not the kind of movie scene where a broken family suddenly heals overnight. Just slowly, quietly. Like somebody opening a door carefully after years of keeping it shut. Every Saturday, Lily and I drove out to Dayton. Sometimes Caleb came too. Grandma adored him almost immediately. The first time they met, she watched him fix the loose latch on her backyard gate without being asked, and later whispered to me in the kitchen, that man was raised right. Caleb pretended not to hear her, but I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. Lily started calling her Grandma Evie by Christmas. Grandma pretended to hate the nickname. Secretly, she loved it. Meanwhile, the rest of my family stayed quiet, too quiet. My mother stopped calling completely. Rebecca disappeared off my radar after the second attorney notice. And my father surprised me. About 3 months after the Facebook post, Mr. Bennett called me personally. Your father contacted my office. I stopped typing immediately at work. What? He's requesting supervised visits with Lily. I blinked several times. He what? He specifically asked for permission, through legal channels. That sounded so unlike my father that I genuinely thought Mr. Bennett had mixed him up with somebody else. My father hated uncomfortable conversations, hated admitting fault even more. What exactly did he say? Mr. Bennett shuffled papers on the other end. He said he understands trust has been damaged, and he's willing to follow whatever boundaries you and your husband decide. I sat there staring at my computer screen while coworkers moved around me. Part of me wanted to say no immediately. Another part remembered something Rachel told me after the family meeting. Your dad looked miserable the whole night. That evening, Caleb and I talked about it for almost 2 hours after Lily went to bed. You think he's sincere? I asked quietly. Caleb leaned back on the couch, thinking. I think your father spent years letting louder people make decisions for him. That doesn't excuse anything. No, he agreed calmly. But it explains some of it. I hated that he was probably right. Finally, Caleb looked at me. What do you want? I thought about it honestly. Not what my mother would want. Not what Rebecca would want. Not what guilt wanted. What I wanted. I hesitated. I think Lily deserves the chance to know at least one decent grandparent if he's actually willing to try. Caleb nodded slowly. Then we set strict boundaries. So we did. Everything went through Mr. Bennett. 1 visit a month, public place only, 2 hours, one of us always present. No gifts meant to buy affection. No discussions about my mother or Rebecca. No photos posted online. My father agreed immediately. The first visit happened at a park near Lily's school. I almost canceled 3 separate times that morning. My stomach stayed tight the entire drive there. But when we arrived, my father was already sitting at a picnic table holding 2 coloring books and a small pack of crayons. No giant presents, no emotional speeches, just crayons. Lily stayed close to Caleb at first. Understandably. My father looked older than I remembered. Smaller, too. Age had finally caught up to him after years of pretending it never would. When Lily finally sat beside him, he looked nervous. Actually nervous. I had never seen my father nervous around anybody. You like drawing? He asked carefully. Lily nodded. Then she immediately started talking about dolphins for some reason. Kids decide conversations with zero logic. My father listened seriously to every single word. That surprised me most. Not the crayons, not the apology he quietly gave me later while Lily played nearby. The listening. He stayed fully present with her the entire time. At the end of the 2 hours, Lily hugged him goodbye without prompting. My father looked stunned afterward. Like he didn't think he deserved it. Maybe he didn't. But Lily had inherited Caleb's softness instead of my family's bitterness. Thank God for that. The visits continued, slowly, carefully, consistently, and over time something strange happened. My father started changing. Or maybe he stopped pretending. About 6 months later, while Lily and Caleb walked ahead of us at the zoo during one of the supervised visits, I finally asked him the question sitting in the back of my mind for years. Why didn't you stop her? He knew immediately who I meant. My mother. He shoved his hands into his coat pockets before answering. Cowardice. He admitted quietly. I didn't expect honesty that direct. He stared ahead while speaking. Your mother always had stronger opinions. Louder opinions. Eventually, it became easier to stay quiet than fight her. I swallowed hard. And when Lily came along, his face tightened immediately. I told myself things would improve eventually. They didn't. No. We walked several more steps before he spoke again. I failed you first, he said quietly. Then I failed her too. I looked down at the pavement because suddenly my eyes burned. Not because his apology fixed anything, but because it was real. No excuses, no manipulation, no blaming stress or family tension or misunderstandings. Just truth. A year after the original Facebook post, my father moved out of the house. I found out through Rachel first. Apparently, my mother still refused to admit she'd done anything wrong. Every conversation became a fight. Rebecca moved back in after Ethan left her. Money problems piled up, arguments got uglier, and eventually my father got tired of living inside constant resentment. He rented a small apartment downtown near his job. He never asked me to forgive my mother, never pressured me to reconnect with Rebecca. Honestly, I respected him more for that. Rebecca, on the other hand, completely unraveled, not publicly at first. Online, she still tried to act normal. Inspirational quotes, filtered selfies, posts about protecting your peace. But according to Rachel, her marriage was collapsing long before my attorney letters ever arrived. Ethan had financial problems nobody knew about, debt, lies, things hidden from Rebecca for years. Once everything started falling apart, it all came out at once. By the end of the 2nd year, they were officially divorced. Rebecca and her daughter moved back into my mother's house permanently. I didn't celebrate any of it. Honestly, by then I felt mostly detached, like hearing updates about distant people I used to know. Life moved forward for us too. Caleb finally opened his own repair shop. Small building, 3 bays, hand-painted sign. He worked insane hours the first 6 months trying to keep it alive. I handled bookkeeping at night after Lily went to sleep because accounting was the one useful thing my stressful office job had actually taught me. Money stayed tight at first. Then one large commercial client found Caleb through a recommendation from one of my coworkers. After that, things stabilized. Not rich, not glamorous, but stable. And stability felt luxurious after the life we'd lived before. Lily changed too. She grew taller, started reading chapter books way above her grade level, lost her front teeth. became obsessed with science documentaries and stray cats. Grandma Evelyn passed away during the winter when Lily was 9, peacefully, in her sleep. The funeral was small, simple, exactly what she wanted. She left her little house to Uncle Ray. But she also left something else, a modest education fund for Lily, and a handwritten letter for me. 3 pages, shaky handwriting. I read it once sitting alone in our bedroom while Caleb stayed outside with Lily. Then I folded it carefully and placed it inside my nightstand drawer. I never needed to reread it. I already knew what it said mattered, because for the first time in my life, somebody in my family had truly seen me clearly and loved me anyway. 2 years after the Facebook post, life looked completely different. Not perfect, but peaceful, which honestly mattered more. One Sunday afternoon, I sat at the dining table helping Lily with math homework, while Caleb assembled a bicycle in the courtyard outside our apartment building. Uncle Ray sat in the living room reading the newspaper while eating orange slices from Grandma Evelyn's old tree. The apartment smelled like coffee and cinnamon, normal smells. Safe smells. Lily frowned down at her worksheet. "How do you spell enough again?" I spelled it out for her. She repeated it twice under her breath while writing carefully. Then she kept working. Outside the window, Caleb tightened something on the bike handlebars while sunlight hit the side of his face. I looked around the apartment quietly. At Lily, at Uncle Ray, at the half-finished bicycle, at the magnets covering our fridge. One held Lily's old family drawing from years ago. The edges were bent now, faded, but still there. Above it hung her gold reading star sticker, a swimming certificate. A school photo missing one front tooth. Tiny pieces of a life we built ourselves. Not because anybody handed it to us, because we protected it. Lily looked up suddenly. "Mom? Yeah, baby. Can I have another orange?" I smiled softly. "There's some on the counter." She hopped down from the chair barefoot and ran into the kitchen. I watched her go. Then I looked back out the window at Caleb, and for the first time in years, thinking about that Facebook post no longer made me angry. It just reminded me of the exact moment I finally stopped begging people to love my daughter properly and started protecting the family that already did.